Welcome to Hope Matters. This is a weekly program produced by Mount Olive Lutheran Church here in Santa Monica, California. I'm Pastor Eric Shafer, the senior pastor here at Mount Olive. And on Hope Matters, we talk to interesting people from around our community and around the nation, even around the world, about the theme of hope, because we believe that hope matters. My guest today is the Reverend Daniel Tamm, who is deacon at All Saints Episcopal Church in Beverly Hills, and has an interesting background beyond that. But welcome, Daniel. We're so pleased that you're with us today.
Thank you so much, Eric. And please call me Daniel.
Okay. So Daniel, tell us about, some of our viewers are not familiar with the term deacon, and especially as it is in the Episcopal Church, it's a little different than the Lutheran Church, as you and I were just talking. So you are a deacon in the church, but you are the Reverend also, but you're not Father Tamm. So a little confusing for us outside the Episcopal affair. So straighten us out here.
Yeah, thanks for that question. It's I was actually in discernment to become a priest. As soon as I learned what deacons were and what they did, it just galvanized me into action to switch to the diaconate as what I was going to be in discernment for. Deacons, if we take it right out of the ordination liturgy, which is in the Book of Common Prayer, our Book of Common Prayer, it talks about interpreting to the church the needs, the sufferings, the concerns, and the hopes of the world. That's a big
task. Just a small job, Daniel. Just a small job.
What attracted me to that was that my previous work in my life was political organizing and public service as well, we'll get into that. So I was all for bringing to the doorstep of the church and interpreting the needs. So we're talking about nothing that's unusual. It's in our baptismal covenant. Come alongside people in need, people who are impoverished. Strive for justice and peace. I mean, all of those are in our baptismal covenant, and in the ordination. The rite of ordination, those are highlighted in there. So it's pretty clear then, where some deacons will have in the Episcopal Church will have specific ministries where they're focused on, either it's a health ministry, or it's a feeding hungry people ministry, or it's one specific thing. Mine is not specified other than what we say in the rite itself of interpreting the needs, concerns, and the hopes of the world to the church. Coming from public service and from political organizing, I always had a social justice orientation to that anyway. That's why I was in it. So this is just an extension of that. This is just coming forward and saying, I'm part of the Episcopal branch of the Jesus movement, and I'm committing my life to the common good. Justice, mercy, compassion, love. And that is what I hope to fulfill as a deacon in the Episcopal Church.
Wonderful. That's very similar to the Lutheran word and service. We don't ordain deacons, we consecrate them, but otherwise it's extremely similar. We have a retired deacon in our congregation, and she was an educator and a youth ministry person in a congregation for many years. Yep. And actually worked for an Episcopal Lutheran cooperation. Some of our viewers know that the Episcopal Church is the church now that's probably the closest current church to the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. We've had a relationship of full communion for many years, and what that means for our viewers is that we can is the practical means is that we share clergy. There's lots of other reasons, there's lots of other things, but what people see is that we can share clergy so that in a small town or a deep urban area, one Lutheran or one Episcopalian priest pastor can serve two congregations, one of each, and they can both thrive. And there are a lot of other ways that's used, but that's the one practical thing that people see for sure. Our relationship. And I was involved in that all happening some 25 years ago. So I know a lot of
that's so enlightened, because we're all we're pulling the oars on the same boat, as it were. I mean, we're all as followers of Jesus, and trying to live into the teachings of Jesus, and our faith in Jesus, which varies. There's a whole range of how people, respond to Jesus, right? But nonetheless, and even within the Episcopal Church, that is true too.
Oh, and the Lutheran Church too. Also, I mean, both of our churches have everything represented in them, and we are we try to be big tent churches. Try to be being the operative language, but for sure.
Right.
Well, you mentioned your political background, and I happen to know that you worked for Mayor Garcetti. So tell our viewers a little bit about how you were involved in politics.
Well, working with Mayor Garcetti grew out of my work in political organizing. I was on the staff of Barack Obama when he was running for president, from the beginning of his campaign, his primary campaign, and here in California. And one of literally a handful of elected officials who had endorsed then Senator Obama for president was Eric Garcetti, who was a council member at the time. And literally there were 5 people, I think, who had endorsed him in the whole state. So that's when we met, and we started a relationship, and I got to know his staff and all of that. And so after that campaign ended, we kept in touch, and I was working on other campaigns. I've worked on everything from city council races to the president, right? He reached out to me when he was running for mayor in 2013, and asked me if I'd come aboard the team. And I was I really liked him a lot, and I was more than willing to become part of his campaign, and I was doing a lot of political organizing. As I mentioned, we won, and then he offered me a job. Now, the only other time I wanted to work for somebody that I had helped get elected was Barack Obama. I tried to get a job in his administration. I didn't get it. So, but Eric Garcetti was one. He did something really early on at among volunteers, where he did this exercise where we all closed our eyes and imagined, what it would be like if, such and such kind of policies were being enacted, and what life would be like, what the world would be like. And it was an extraordinary experience. I mean, it's a simple thing, but it signaled to me that he really understood volunteers. And he spoke with volunteers in a way that was very respectful and very, really appreciative and understanding who they were as people. And that really made a difference to me, because many politicians are a little uncomfortable and awkward around volunteers on their own campaigns. And they, they're happy they're there, but they're not being paid. They're volunteering. Um, but not so with Eric Garcetti. So I noticed that right off the bat. So when we won, and they offered me a role in the administration, I said, "Great, I'd love it." So I went from political organizing into now becoming a public servant, and really, and like the diaconate, there's a sense of responsibility that came with that, and and I felt like it was a sacred trust, to be respectful of the people, and to serve their interests. I worked on, I was assigned as the West area representative, so I know the West Side very well. And also as the mayor's interfaith liaison. And as the mayor's interfaith liaison, I was not ordained at the time, but I was in discernment. So, and he learned that, he knew that. So he asked me to be his interfaith liaison, which was a wonderful opportunity to reach out and meet and build relationships with people of faith and of diverse faiths, Buddhists, Hindus, the Baha'i community, Jews, you name it, all across the board, all over the city. And it was a wonderful experience. And it also helped me to, when we were doing things like campaigning to raise the minimum wage, which was, here was something to lift people out of poverty, a very diaconal thing to do. It was among the faith community that I worked, faith communities, in order to be able to build support for that. Same thing with Measure H, Proposition HHH, which was the 10-year funding for permanent housing for people experiencing homelessness and the services that go along with it. So with those campaigns and then working with faith communities, I really had an opportunity to be at the intersection of my faith, people of faith, faith communities, and the public square. So, and how the two can affect each other, and advocacy, all of that. I was able to develop a lot of that during that time, and I was very grateful for my time there. From there, I went to just for about a couple of years, 18 months or so, to LA Sanitation and Environment, where I basically preached the gospel of sustainability all over, and came alongside communities where there was a need for environmental justice. So I was basically bringing all my diaconal instincts, into these jobs. I don't know, that was actually not totally part of my job when I went into those communities, but don't tell anybody. It's too late now. I've already left there. So, but it was part of our ethos and part of our philosophy in LA Sanitation and Environment in terms of protecting health in the environment of Los Angeles, to pay attention to the needs of communities where there needed to be environmental justice being served.
Well, Daniel, I think that part of your life, and now with your new life, gives you a unique perspective on our theme. So, where do you find hope in your life, in your ministry in 2021?
In 2021, we just we just recently confirmed some Episcopalians confirmed in their faith. They were mainly high school students. And I noticed among them, a real, clarity and kind of a ferocity of intention, where they wanted to bring Christ's redeeming love, into the world by how they lived, not by proselytizing as much as by how they lived, and by their reaching out to people who are impoverished, people in need, by their willingness to reach out and engage in serving those communities. So that was one experience most recently where I saw it. I saw it in young people also previously when I was in the mayor's office. I had a cohort on the west side of the mayor's youth council. And those kids were just simply amazing. I mean, I started out doing that thinking, oh man, do I really have to do this? Spend Saturday morning with these kids? All right, I'll go. And once we began it, and once we started, it ended up being one of the most exciting things that I did in all of my job, because there was a real vibrancy and interest and humor and energy towards changing the world, which I just thought, we were just thriving together. So those are some, it's young people,
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think you're aware of our work here at Mount Olive with homeless college students. And so now I'm working with student leaders on 4 campuses. And you want to be inspired for the next generation, work with our volunteers. I mean, they're just amazing.
Are you familiar with someone named Greta Thunberg? Sorry, my dogs are protecting the house.
They're protecting the house. They're doing their job.
Greta Thunberg.
I know. I've heard the name. But,
See if you can Google, and I'm going to say this to your listeners as well, and anybody viewing this. Google Greta Thunberg, Thunberg, and do COP, C-O-P, in capitals, Council of Parties. That was the UN group on climate change, which just met in, it was COP26, they just met. But go back a couple of years and Google some of her speeches. She's a teenager from Sweden.
Yeah, now I'm remembering her. She's amazing. She's amazing.
Really young. She was like 15 or 16 or something. And she started learning about climate change and how it's happening and why it's happening. And then looking around and seeing that nobody was doing anything. People were talking a lot, the world leaders, but nobody was really backing it up with action. And if there's a reincarnation of Joan of Arc, this young woman who's now 18,
Well, I have seen her now. It took me a minute to register, but she's amazing. And that's just wonderful.
Anyway, we want to try to capture her spirit also in the Diocese of Los Angeles is looking into developing a task force around that issue of climate change and climate crisis, really. Maybe we can do some work together with West Side Coalition.
That's possible. Well, you and I could go on and on, but we do, as I told you as we began, we do try to keep these interviews under 15 minutes, and we're already there, believe it or not. You and I could talk a lot more, but so maybe I need to have you back and we'll talk some more after you're.
Yeah, we can do a whole series, and people can do what's that called? Binge watch.
They can binge watch us. Well, I don't know if they ever do that, but Oh, Daniel, well, thank you for being with us for Hope Matters today. I really appreciate it, and
my pleasure.
Really appreciate getting to know you a little better. And
sure.
So this has been Hope Matters, a weekly production of Mount Olive Lutheran Church here in Santa Monica, California. Our guest today has been the Reverend Daniel Tamm, who is the deacon at All Saints Episcopal Church in Beverly Hills and has a long track record of working in politics for the good of humankind. Thank you for being with us today, Daniel.
Thank you. My pleasure. Peace.
Tune in again next week where we have another guest on Hope Matters, because we believe that hope matters and we believe in a God of hope.